You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
Quick question. Do your end users always work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? If the answer is no, then my next question is, how do you keep company data safe on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this question: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device, because it solves the problem traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. Check it out at onepassword.com/XAM. That's onepassword.com/XAM. A North Korean hacking group targets healthcare, energy, and finance. Leaked Leidos documents surface on the dark web. A Middle Eastern financial institution suffered a record-breaking DDoS attack. The latest tally on the fallout from the Crowdstrike outage. A cybersecurity audit of HHS reveals significant cloud security gaps. Docker patches a critical vulnerability for the second time. Google announced enhanced protections for Chrome users. In our latest Threat Vector segment, David Moulton speaks with Sama Manchanda, a consultant at Unit 42, to explore the evolving landscape of social engineering attacks. And if you're heading to Paris for the Summer Olympics, smile for the AI cameras. It's Thursday, July 25th, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us here today. It is great to have you with us. A report from Mandiant reveals that the North Korean hacking group Andariel, previously known for attacks on government and critical infrastructure, is now targeting healthcare, energy, and financial sectors. This group, linked to the DPRK's Reconnaissance General Bureau, has been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury. Known for sophisticated cyber operations, Andariel employs advanced tools to evade detection and maximize impact. Mandiant, part of Google, tracks Andariel's espionage efforts, including targeting nuclear facilities and defense systems. Now designated as APT-45, Andariel has expanded to financially motivated operations, including ransomware. Since at least 2009, Andariel has operated under various code names and is linked to the infamous Lazarus Group. North Korea uses these cyber attacks to fund weapons development and boost its economy. The group's activities have broadened since a suspected COVID-19 outbreak in North Korea, now encompassing the healthcare sector. Mandiant warns that Andariel can swiftly shift its focus to new targets. After a recent security breach, internal documents from Leidos Holdings, an IT services provider for the Department of Defense and other U.S. agencies, have surfaced on the dark web. The breach traces back to a 2022 cyber attack on Diligent Corporation, a governance software provider used by Leidos. Despite the attack occurring 2 years ago, Leidos only became aware of the circulating documents recently. Following this revelation, Leidos issued all necessary breach notifications. Most of the leaked information pertains to internal corporate matters, such as employee reviews and complaints, rather than any militarily sensitive data. This incident has drawn attention to Leidos, one of the defense industry's largest IT service providers, after its merger with Lockheed Martin's Information Systems and Global Solutions back in 2016. Based in Reston, Virginia, Leidos employs about 47,000 people and reported $15.4 billion in revenue in 2023. A Middle Eastern financial institution suffered a record-breaking 6-day DDoS attack by the hacktivist group SN Black Meta. This prolonged assault, consisting of 10 waves and totaling 100 hours of attack time, demonstrates the growing sophistication of DDoS. The attack peaked at 14.7 million malicious requests per second, significantly disrupting the institution's web services. Radware's web DDoS protection services helped mitigate the impact, blocking over 1.25 trillion malicious requests. SN Black Meta, known for ideologically driven attacks, announced the assault on Telegram. Their tactics include targeting critical infrastructure and leveraging public support through transparency. Crowdstrike warns organizations about a fake recovery manual for Windows devices impacted by a Falcon platform update outage, which spreads Daolpu information-stealing malware. Attackers used phishing emails with a malicious Word attachment mimicking Microsoft's support bulletin. When enabled, the attachment's macros download a DLL file decoded by Windows CertUtil, allowing Daolpu to infiltrate browser-stored credentials and cookies. CrowdStrike provided a Yara rule and indicators of compromise. Bleeping Computer suggests Daolpu may originate from Vietnam. According to cloud monitoring, modeling, and insurance services provider Parametrics, the July 19th Microsoft CrowdStrike outage resulted in a direct financial loss of approximately $5.4 billion for Fortune 500 companies, with an average loss of $44 million per organization, rising to $150 million for the most affected, such as airlines. Parametrics reported that only 10 to 20% of these losses are covered by cyber insurance. The healthcare sector faced the largest loss at $1.94 billion, followed by banking at $1.15 billion. The incident impacted a quarter of Fortune 500 companies, including all 6 major airlines and 43% of retailers. Observers say this highlights the need for better risk diversification and management in the face of systemic cyber events. A cybersecurity audit of the Department of Health and Human Services Office of the Secretary revealed significant cloud security gaps, exposing sensitive data to potential cyber attacks. Conducted in mid-2022 by the HHS Office of the Inspector General and Breakpoint Labs, the audit included penetration testing and phishing simulations. It found that over 30% of HHS systems were cloud-based, with vulnerabilities like lack of multi-factor authentication and poor access controls. 12 specific security gaps were identified, with the most critical involving network access. Despite some positive outcomes from phishing simulations, the audit highlighted severe risks to HHS's cloud systems, emphasizing the need for improved security measures. This report, publicly released this week, comes amid increasing cyber threats to healthcare and government systems, prompting initiatives to bolster defenses. As a side note, it's puzzling that the audit report on HHS's cloud security, conducted in mid-2022, has taken 2 years to be released. In the rapidly evolving field of cybersecurity, such a delay undermines the relevance of the findings and recommendations. Cyber threats and vulnerabilities can change drastically in just months, making it critical for audit results to be timely to ensure effective remediation and adaptation to current risks. Docker has urged users to patch a critical vulnerability affecting certain Docker engine versions, allowing privilege escalation via specially crafted API requests. Discovered in 2018 and initially fixed in Docker Engine version 18.09.1, the patch was not included in later versions, leading to a regression. This flaw allows attackers to bypass authorization plugins and execute unauthorized commands. Although the exploitability is low, Docker recommends updating to the latest version or restricting API access if updating isn't possible. Google has announced enhanced protections for Chrome users against malicious file downloads. Since last year, Chrome has provided AI-powered warnings for potentially harmful files, featuring distinct icons, colors, and text to help users make informed decisions. These warnings have reduced the number of bypassed alerts and increased user compliance. Google now performs automatic deep scans on suspicious files for users in the enhanced protection mode, which has proven effective in detecting new malware. For password-protected encrypted archives, enhanced protection users are prompted to send the file and password to safe browsing, while standard protection users receive a password prompt and metadata check. All uploaded data is deleted shortly after scanning to ensure privacy. Coming up after the break on the Threat Vector segment, David Moulton speaks with Sama Manchanda, consultant at Unit 42, to explore the evolving landscape of social engineering attacks. Stay with us. And now, a word from our sponsor, KnowBe4. It's all connected, and we're not talking conspiracy theories. When it comes to InfoSec tools, effective integrations can make or break your security stack. The same should be true for security awareness training. KnowBe4, provider of the world's largest library of security awareness training, provides a way to integrate your existing security stack tools to help you strengthen your organization's security culture. KnowBe4's Security Coach uses standard APIs to quickly and easily integrate with your existing security products from vendors like Microsoft, Crowdstrike, and Cisco, 35 vendor integrations and counting. Security Coach analyzes your security stack alerts to identify events related to any risky security behavior from your users. Use this information to set up real-time coaching campaigns targeting risky users based on those events from your network, endpoint, identity, or web security vendors. Then coach your users at the moment the risky behavior occurs, with contextual security tips delivered via Microsoft Teams, Slack, or email. Learn more at knowbefore.com/securitycoach. That's knowbefore.com/securitycoach. And we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show. When it comes to ensuring your company has top-notch security practices, things can get complicated fast. Vanta automates compliance for SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and more, saving you time and money. With Vanta, you can streamline security reviews by automating questionnaires and demonstrating your security posture with a customer-facing Trust Center. Over 7,000 global companies like Atlassian, Flow Health, and Quora use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. Our listeners can claim a special offer of $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber for $1,000 off Vanta. David Moulton is host of the Threat Vector podcast right here on the N2K CyberWire Network. In this segment from their most recent episode, David speaks with Sama Manchanda, a consultant at Unit 42. They explore the evolving landscape of social engineering attacks.
There are three main parts to a phishing attack. There's the bait, the hook, and the catch. The bait being the preparation, the juicy bait that someone falls for. With the hook, the attacker has got the information that they need to get the attention of the user and then get them to do something. And this is the catch part, whether it's performing an action, clicking a link, something like that. Once the user has actually clicked and fallen for the hook, that's when the actual attack happens. The bait, the hook, the catch.
Welcome to Threat Vector, the Palo Alto Networks podcast where we discuss pressing cybersecurity threats, cyber resilience, and uncover insights into the latest industry trends. I'm your host, David Moulton, Director of Thought Leadership for Unit 42. In today's episode, we'll discuss the evolving landscape of social engineering attacks, particularly focusing on vishing and smishing. As we approach the election season, the relevance of these threats has never been higher. We'll discuss how these techniques have adapted and grown more sophisticated over time, the psychological tactics behind them, and the specific challenges they pose to both individuals and the integrity of the democratic process. Joining us once again is Sama Manchanda, a seasoned expert in cybersecurity from Unit 42. Sama will shed light on the latest trends and provide insights into how to protect yourself and your organization from these insidious threats. Here's our conversation. Sama Manchanda, welcome back to Threat Vector. It's been a while since you've joined us on the pod, and we're back today to talk about vishing, smishing, kind of an update to our original schmish tales, especially as we're looking at the election season coming up.
Glad to be back, and thank you for having me back. Always excited to talk about social engineering, the vishing, phishing, smishing.
We were talking about elections and vishing and some of the dangers that are lurking on your phone. And maybe we start out with this idea of what is smishing and how does it differ from maybe traditional phishing or even vishing?
Yeah. So smishing in general is the SMS form or, message form of phishing. And we've talked about phishing before. Phishing really is a social engineering scam where an attacker usually convinces or deceives people into revealing some kind of sensitive information or doing something that they weren't, intending to do. Some can be installing malware. It could be getting them to enter credentials, all that kind of good stuff. But very similar to phishing, again, is smishing, where usually phishing we see on an email platform, usually of some kind. Smishing is pretty similar, usually just comes in the form of a text message instead.
How do psychological tactics play into manipulating a recipient for a phishing attack?
That's one of the main reasons it's so successful is, again, it preys upon the weaknesses of people and just in general. There's a lot of common tactics that we see across the board. So things like scare tactics or, creating a sense of urgency hones in on the user's fear of something happening that's not supposed to happen. Like, oh, this is super urgent. Somebody needs something. And, I don't want to get in trouble because of this. It could also be, again, just playing into, someone not noticing something is off or different because maybe they're in a rush. That's one of those things where smishing, I think, is particularly successful, where it's, again, like you're on your phone. And like we mentioned earlier, it's a lot harder sometimes when you're on a phone to be thinking about like, oh, maybe I should hover over this link and really think about where it's going. On an email, it's much easier to do that. So you're just like, oh, I'm in the middle of doing something and this came up and I just was distracted. So, and I think, and then again, attackers, they're really good at their job also at the end of the day. This is what they specialize in. So they've got a good handle on using people's weaknesses against it. And that's the entire premise of social engineering is finding different things that, people will fall for and what ultimately is successful enough for them to get their foot in the door.
How do attackers leverage current events and misinformation to enhance the effectiveness of their attacks? That's
one of the ways that they stay relevant. They use information that's going on to sort of build credibility and come across as a legitimate source rather than just, again, trying to go straight for the information. That's part of like their bait is saying, like, for example, like there's a hurricane that's coming in, right? And they can use that as like like whether as an attacker, they're spreading misinformation or they're, trying to get the user to do something. I like donate money or like put their money somewhere type of thing. Using something that's like a current event, again, that just lowers people are used to that. People are used to, elected people who are campaigning using events like this to sort of to further their own goal, whether that is spreading information of some kind or influencing the voter in some way about maybe a person, a candidate, or about the process in general. Or also, it could also be, again, masquerading to get a donation. This is, again, a very popular time for campaigns to be soliciting donations and reaching out to all, people from everywhere. So they're just not as maybe aware that, again, attackers are also doing the same thing, and they're hoping that a person doesn't notice, essentially, that they're maybe putting their money somewhere where they're not supposed to be, or they're sharing information with a source that they shouldn't be.
So looking ahead, what predictions do you have, or do you have any emerging trends that you foresee in the evolution of cyber threats targeting elections?
I think, we're seeing this become more and more common. This is becoming a big topic every single election season, both in our general elections, our midterm elections, local elections, everything. And the fact that, this is becoming more and more common and more prevalent, I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. This is where we see things happening here in the US. We tend to see the same patterns in other countries as well. It's especially important to educate people that, again, to just be aware, knowing that these threats are out there, knowing that maybe everything that you see on the internet isn't always true, and not taking everything at face value. I think those are lessons that go a long way. Being a little bit skeptical, maybe, but not too skeptical is usually good practice.
Sama, what's the most important lesson a listener should take away from our conversation today?
My big takeaway is, if you're not sure, don't click it.
Sama, thanks for coming back on Threat Vector today. As always, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully the tennis game continues to be fun over the summer. And I know our listeners are, like me, really interested in this topic, and grateful that an expert like you would share your insights and opinions on this super important topic.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
That's it for Threat Vector today. Thank you for joining, and stay tuned for more episodes. If you like what you heard, please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Your reviews and feedback really do help us understand what you want to hear about. I want to thank our executive producer, Michael Heller. I edit the show, and Elliot Peltzman mixes the audio. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, stay secure, stay vigilant. Goodbye for now.
Be sure to check out the Threat Vector podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Enterprises today are using hundreds of SaaS apps. Are you reaping their productivity and innovation benefits, or are you lost in the sprawl? Enter Savvy Security. They help you surface every SaaS app, identity, and risk, so you can shine a light on shadow IT and risky identities. Savvy monitors your entire SaaS attack surface to help you efficiently eliminate toxic risk combinations and prevent attacks. So go on, get savvy about SaaS and harness the productivity benefits. Fuel innovation while closing security gaps. Visit savvy.security to learn more. And finally, Matthias Hollier is co-founder of Wintix, one of 4 French companies to win Olympic contracts to transform Paris's CCTV cameras into a high-tech monitoring tool for the Olympics. With thousands of cameras, it's impossible for police officers to react to every camera, Hollier says. Wintix first made a splash in 2020 by helping Paris count cyclists with algorithms linked to 200 traffic cameras. Now, they're stepping up to count people in crowds and alert operators when too many hit the deck. Hollier assures us there's no big brother decision-making happening here. It's just anonymous shapes, he says. His team trained ministry officials on the software, which just raises alerts for the humans to check out. He argues it's a privacy-friendly alternative to facial recognition, saying, "We're not analyzing personal data, no faces, no license plates, no behavioral analytics." Privacy activists, however, are not buying it. Naomi Levant, a staunch defender of civil liberties, is on a mission with 6,000 posters to warn Parisians about algorithmic surveillance. She contends that analyzing images of people inherently involves personal data, likening it to facial recognition technology. Levant fears these surveillance systems will linger long after the Olympians have left. She says this technology will reproduce the stereotypes of the police, arguing that it will amplify discriminatory practices. As Parisians brace for the Olympic invasion, many, like Levant, plan to escape to the south, dreading the post-game surveillance city they'll return to. The Olympics is an excuse, she asserts. The government, companies, and police are already thinking about after. It's the age-old tension between security and privacy, gold medal edition. For me, I'll be watching the game on the TV and hoping the river stays clean enough so they can run the triathlon. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K's CyberWire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karp. Simone Petrella is our president, Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.